So my name is Monica Anselmo, and today I'm going to be showing you some of my painted eggs and go over the steps on how to create a finished one. Today we're going to do a style like this one, but I have taken it on with my own artistic ability and decided to do some Easter themed ones to show you. This is on a natural background egg, and you can do any painting on them that you already do or would like to do. Here would be a chicken for Easter, and then also an Easter lily, again keeping the natural color of the egg. These are from an Americana chicken that has been raised by my family, but you can use any eggs from the store if you would like. The first step would be to blow out the eggs. Then we're going to go over the process of doing the primer coat, the starting coat so that it sticks, and then your layers and the details. And then for this one we're going to do a pretty design silhouetted on the egg. I'll show you how to draw it, paint over your lines, take any pencil lines that might be remaining off, and then how I like to finish them is with bee caps on the end so they can be hung from either a Christmas tree if you want to do Christmas eggs or a decorative ornament stand. So the first step is to blow out the eggs. These ones have already been done, but as you can see here there's a hole in the top and the very bottom. I used a Dremel tool with a round tip, but you can also use some tools that you can find at Walmart in the manicuring section. They're essentially like a Dremel tool. There's a sharp point or a rounded point that you can use to get through the eggshell. When you're doing it, do a slight amount of pressure and go back and forth so you don't crack the egg. And then do your best to get it as centered as possible on the bottom. You will then stick a piece of wire or a toothpick up through it and scramble the insides of the egg. Then you will put your mouth on the front and blow the egg through into a bowl where you can save it and have scrambled eggs in the morning. I then wash them and let them dry. Sometimes there will be a bit that will run out of the end that didn't come out, so make sure you just kind of wash that off and let that dry before you want to start your painting. The eggs kind of have a slippery surface, so we're going to have to do a first layer of paint like this one so the paint can actually adhere and get your texture. On this one you can see my fingerprints. Wherever I touched it, the paint would keep coming off. So the first layer is to do a thin one to try to make it adhere. This egg I'm going to do in green in the same design. So essentially cover it as best as you can without going too thick. If you leave any texture on it, it will dry that way. So whether it's desired or not, that's up to you. But this one I want to make smooth and fade it. So I'll kind of lay down the color that I want where I want it so that I'll know. You can do your best to keep your fingers out of it, but you'll essentially have to go back and recover up where you left off. This one I'll put the light color up here, and then once it's covered all the way through like that on all sides, I will set it aside and let it dry. And then this one has already dried, so we're going to use this as an example. Now we're going to put on our layers to make it look like this. I kind of want to do the tie-dyed fade with the darker color on the bottom, lighter color on top. You can do a completely smooth gradient, or you can make it kind of sponged and tie-dye looking. It's whatever you want to do and whatever comes naturally. So I will get my paint and just start going on with it. The other one I did a little bit of texture with, and that I just blopped on the paint. And I did about 3 coats on the last one, but essentially it was the same step over and over until I got the desired look. I really like to dip my paintbrush in one mixed color and then the other, so as I dabble it creates a really strong marbled color like this, or you can just do one color at a time and do really good blending. So it's whatever you would like to do. So there's an example of starting to blend the colors together. And there's an example of doing some more marbling. So essentially I'm just going to let this dry before I do my next technique that I did on this egg here, and that is the white speckles. So I'm going to put that egg down, and the white speckles are created, you can do this with a toothbrush or a really kind of strong bristled brush. I'm going to wet it down a little bit so that it flecks better, and I'm going to do the white, so I'm going to mix in a little water with the white. And then it can get a little messy. You can try to use a tool, but I think our best tools are our fingers. So I'm going to literally bring the brush and grab it and flick it onto the egg like so. Right now I'm getting lots of little ones, and that looks really nice. And then if I wanted to do some bigger ones, you can either drop the brush like this to get really big splatters. Granted, it will make a mess. Or if you glop on a lot more paint, you can get a little bit bigger droplets on it. And you can move closer or farther with however it's spraying. But here's an example of some strong drops and some lighter ones. And then each step needs to completely dry. As you handle the egg, you're going to mess up your previous layers and you'll have to go back over them. So your next step would be to draw your designs. Here's some that I just printed off online because I thought they looked kind of spring and Eastery. I never like to duplicate a design in its entirety. I like to change it up and make it my own. It makes you a little bit more prouder of your work and you're not really copywriting or anything like that. This one I have already drawn out and started to do some of the black work, but I'll show you, especially if your paint is lighter, you can see your pencil marks. If it's a really dark egg, you can see it by kind of the reflection of the light, so as you turn it, you can see your pencil marks and start following through. But essentially, you'll draw straight onto the egg with the pencil, whatever designs you want to follow through. And then if you're doing very detailed work, I highly recommend using a very fine tip pencil. If you're getting even more detailed, some people use a fine tip Sharpie to do some of the more detailed work, and you really can't tell when you change from one to another. So we're going to get some black paint. And this step is pretty simple. You can just follow your lines that you did before using whatever stroke is most comfortable for you, either pulling towards you, pulling away, and then you can do any type of design you want. You can even do your names. You can do silhouettes of landscapes like some palm trees, or even silhouettes of people or birds. But I like to use black because it really brings out the bright color. But you could essentially do blue on this egg, or could have done black speckles and just solid white designs. You can really make it your own and do whatever level of painting that you're comfortable with. So this one I'm just gonna do a little more of the design here. I'm not going to finish it, but I'll show you that if you want to add a little bit more depth, you can add a second layer to the design as highlights. So for example, on the flower, I'm just gonna highlight a little bit with the white on certain parts of the leaves, or on the little circles, and it adds a little bit more intrigue to it. So once that is dry, I will coat it with a liquid varnish. You can choose matte or gloss, whatever you like. I use the Liquitex, which I got at Hobby Lobby. These ones have already been coated, and once you put it on, you will not be able to erase your pencil lines. So if you have any left over that you want to erase, you'll want to do that first. So you can literally just take your eraser and go back over the line. If there's some texture, you might kind of have to work it around, but always be careful you don't drop the egg or crush it, because it definitely will break. If there's a little bit left over, I have dipped my paper towels into some water before and just kind of wiped it and cleaned it off. So essentially, you can take it off. And then, once they are completely dry and finished, I like to use bead caps, but you can essentially use beads, sequins, anything that you would like. You can even use some sort of sculpty putty or something that will dry on its own to fill the holes if you want it to look like a complete new egg. These ones have been hot glued on with the wire so that they can be hung. The wire was twisted before it was put in. I just dropped some hot glue in with the wire, put some more glue in the bead cap, and placed it on the end, and we have our finished product. Remember to always sign and date your work so you can remember when it was completed, especially if you're giving it away as a gift or keeping it for memorabilia. I like to sign it on the back so that it doesn't interfere with the artwork. I'm going to sign this one with the Sharpie so that I can have nice detail on it. Trying to paint it is slightly harder, but it also looks just as nice. Right on the back side there, so it doesn't interfere, but you can have it for a keepsake.